We're going to change this to sure addiction. Assessment, understanding, and getting help. Might work better tonight. Good to see y'all. When we were putting together these 7 weeks, it was really impossible to line these up in some kind of order that made sense all the way through. But to go forward just for a moment, Dr. Hodges, who was here last week, talking about anxiety, is going to be here next week, be back next week, and he really is one of the 2 or 3 folks in town who really does a great job with ADD, ADHD, and so I know some of you have kids and grandkids. When I was a kid, we didn't have that diagnosis. You were just a bad kid. And you were treated as a bad kid, and that's kind of unfortunate. And there's some controversy and conversation about ADD, ADHD. So I think it's going to be really fun to be a part of that and talk about that. But next week, we're going to talk about grief and bereavement. And we have kind of touched on that along the way. And then the last week, which I think is October 12th, I kind of want to tie all this together. One of the things I do a lot of is work with pastors around issues of pastoral care and how we take care of each other. And we're going to really focus on what we do as caregivers in God's name, what we do with our brothers and sisters in places like this. And I'm going to give you some great examples of what not to do, and some ideas about what to do. And I hope that will be a fun, nice way to end the week. There's some theories about addictions that have been around for a long time. And does everybody have the PowerPoint? You ready? Good. There's some theories that have been around for a long time, and one is that if you're able to pull the veil off of alcohol, you're going to find some other pretty gnarly issues there. You're going to find depressive disorders. You're going to find anxiety disorders. There are a lot of folks who say you're going to find ADD, ADHD, and that adults with ADD, ADHD, that people use alcohol as a way to medicate, to self-medicate. Obviously, we have never touted alcohol as a treatment for depressive disorders, primarily because alcohol is a depressant. And in fact, we say to people who are on antidepressants, don't drink. Because you're taking an antidepressant, why would you take it? Why would you pour a depressant onto an antidepressant? That you just do one, okay? Because you're not helping yourself and wasting money if you do both. So if you can, those of you who are here who can think back to depression and anxiety, and even looking ahead to ADD, ADHD next week. You've all had people who have spoke to you, and the person had no idea that he or she was speaking to you. It was just something was said that was profoundly important. I had a professor in graduate school who kind of strolled in one day. He was about 90. And he kind of strolled in and he stood there and he said, "Folks, let me tell you something." And we were all kind of training to be clinicians. And he said, if someone walks into your office and has 37 different issues going on, and 1 is alcohol. Don't touch the other 36. If you treat the alcohol issue successfully, the majority of the other 36 issues will go away on their own. And that just kind of hit me. I think part of that is because I had a maternal grandfather who died of cirrhosis of the liver. My father died early in life. He died at 50. And grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and we had this full basement. You don't see basements in Florida, but we had this full basement. And you'll always notice that my shoes are always just really, really polished and clean. It's because my dad loved to shine shoes. And he would go downstairs in the basement every night, and he would shine shoes. He would shine my baseball cleats. He would shine my mother's shoes. Okay, but it took me about 14 years of my life to realize that it wasn't the shoes. He had a stash of beer. And he was downstairs drinking beer, but we all thought he was shining shoes. Okay, and so when he died at 50, it kind of occurred to me that since alcohol is progressive, I need to be careful. Okay, I need to be careful, and I'll get to that slide in a minute, because one of the things we know is that if I have one parent who is chemically dependent, if I have one parent who's a substance abuser, there's a 50% chance that I'm at risk. If both parents are substance abusers, alcohol, whatever, 80% chance for me. Those are not good numbers. And so one of the things that I realized early in life, not only did I need to pace myself, but I needed to pace myself. I need to periodically not drink. And I have kind of maintained that. I always drink during fasting, that's important. So after the college season's over, I take a break, Lent or whatever. Okay. There is this one great joke, Susan, that you can. It's my only Lenten joke. This guy goes into a bar in Spain, high noon. He orders 3 beers. Bartender brings him 3 beers. Drinks 3 beers. Comes in the next day, 3 beers. High noon, 3 beers. He does this for a couple of weeks. Bartender says, finally says, there's a story here. What's the story? He said, well, I've got 2 brothers. One lives in France and one lives in Belgium, and we're very, very close. We love each other dearly. And we all go to a bar at 12 noon every day, and we drink 3 beers. The bartender said, wow, that's really cool. That's a great story. So this goes on for a while. Guy comes in one day and says, I'll have 2 beers. Bartender's thinking, something bad's happened. But he pours the 2 beers. He brings it to me and says, I'm sorry, I have to ask, this something bad happened? He said, no. I gave up drinking for Lent. You can remember that at Lent, okay? But I learned to pace myself because I knew that I was possibly at risk, okay? These are the numbers in 2014. It's kind of staggering. 52.7% of American ages 12 and up are current drinkers, which means there are 177 million drinkers in this country. One of the things we know, Bernie knows this, I know this, some of you know this, We know that 10% of the population is dependent on something. Okay? And so we know we've got 17 million people out there who are chemically dependent. Now, if we say Northwest Florida, Eastern Shore, going over Santa Rosa, Okaloosa, we're talking about 500,000 people. So we're looking at 50,000 people chemically dependent in this area. And one of the things we know is that for every one abuser, there are 7 people profoundly affected. We do the math. That means there are 350,000 of the 500,000 that are somehow wrapped up in this issue. Those numbers to me are absolutely staggering. Let me break it down a little bit. I gave you that. We have about 67 million people addicted to nicotine, tobacco. Now, let me tell you something, because you're getting a lot of information, okay? Let me tell you the good news and the bad news. The good news is you're getting a lot of information, okay? The bad news is insight is never synonymous with change. I can have all the insight in the world about something, but that does not mean that there's going to be change. Best example, we know everything there is to know about nicotine. There's nothing we don't know about nicotine, okay? But the tobacco industry cultivates 3,000 new smokers every day to replace those who die and quit. We have all the insight in the world, but it doesn't necessarily affect change. It doesn't produce change. So we have 4.2 million people addicted to marijuana. And that number is going to grow. You probably know that. Somebody can ask the question at 7 o'clock about medical uses for marijuana. We can maybe talk about that. Stimulants. If you give me 5 of your Adderall, 20 milligram, I'll be back in 30 minutes with $100. It's a really, really important street drug. Okay? We now have people who are crushing Adderall and snorting Adderall just like they do cocaine. So we have 1.5 million people, estimate, addicted to medicines like Adderall. 250,000 addicted to hallucinogens. Opioids. Give me 5 oxys, I'll come back, handful of cash. Oxys, Lortab, Percocet. Okay. I am seeing now in my practice, I am seeing more addiction to prescription pain medicine than I am to alcohol. Pardon?
Is that an old number?
2014. It's probably higher now. One of the problems is we have a real issue in this community. Okay. The federal government has done a pretty good job of blocking drugs coming into Miami and South Florida, and what's happened is a lot of the traffic has come up the Gulf Coast. And so we have a lot of these issues are coming straight to us, Mobile, New Orleans, across the coast. So these are just the numbers. What I want to do is talk about alcohol, and we're going to talk about opioids. Let me go back to tobacco just real quick. One of the things we know about nicotine, I've got this really, really smart psychiatrist in our office who's an addictionologist, and I learned a lot from him. Nicotine mimics dopamine. And if you remember from the first session on depression, we talked a little bit about dopamine. So the nicotine, the brain is thinking, oh, it's good stuff, because it mimics dopamine. And the nicotine also attacks every receptor in the brain, as opposed to alcohol or stimulants or opioids. Okay? And so that's one of the reasons why tobacco is by far the biggest number, and it is the most aggressive form of addiction. The average American trying to stop smoking, you'll never guess, 11 times it takes to quit smoking. And part of that, a lot of that is because nicotine mimics dopamine, and we like dopamine. We're going to talk about alcohol, we're going to talk about opioids, and we're going to talk about relapse, treatment and relapse, and then our favorite topic is enabling. We always love to talk about enabling it. What do we mean by moderate and binge and heavy drinking, okay? And these are just suggestions, okay? For women, we would say that a woman is a moderate drinker up to one cocktail or one glass of wine per day. Now, I say to people, they come in and I say, how much do you drink? And they say, I have 2 cocktails a night. And I say, okay, what size glass? And he says, mason jar. So it's 6 cocktails a night. Or I say to a woman, how much wine? I drink 2 glasses. But these big goblets that you buy, that you get in New Orleans at a bar, you pay $18 for the whole deal and you bring the goblet home, okay? Well, that's like 3/4 of a bottle of wine. And she drinks 2 of those a night. But it's just 2 glasses. She's not lying, okay? So moderate drinking, women up to 1 per day, men up to 2 per day. Binge drinking is 5 or more drinks on the same occasion, 1 occasion per 30 days. So obviously, if someone is doing this once a week, 3 times a week, every day the eagle flies, Friday, we talk about someone who is a binge drinker. And I know people who are functional alcoholics. They do not drink Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. And they are drunk Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and they get up Monday and go to work. And they do fine. They've not been able to interview their liver about how the liver's doing, but they work fine. Okay? So binge drinking, 5 or more on the same occasion, 1 occasion for 30 days. Heavy drinking, 5 or more at the occasion, 5 or more occasions for 30 days. We would consider that heavy drinking. One of the things that I'll do, someone comes in and says, how much do you drink? And these are nice people, okay? These are well-educated, nice people, great jobs, good families, okay? Probably taking 40 milligrams of Prozac, which is doing absolutely no good whatsoever. And I say, How much do you drink? Well, I have 3 cocktails a night. Okay. Regular glass. Okay. More on the weekend? I probably have 4 cocktails on Friday and 4 on Saturday. Okay. So hang on. So you just told me that you are consuming 140 cocktails a month. And they say, yeah, I guess I am. Wow. That is a lot of alcohol. It's a lot of alcohol. And they've been doing it for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years. The other thing that we find, and we get into, and we'll talk about family dynamics in a little bit, we know it's particularly an issue for adolescents, for college students, okay? We know that when someone starts using early, wherever they start using early in life, when they start using chronically and heavily early in life, their emotional growth stops at that point. And so you have some guy that starts at 18 and finally gets into treatment at 32. He is 32 going on 18. And there's just a world of catching up to do. Okay? How do we make a diagnosis? There are all kinds of ways to make a diagnosis, and we could be here till breakfast talking about making a diagnosis. Okay? One way we make a diagnosis is for me to say to someone, do you want to really test this out? Do you want to see if this is true or not? Do you want to try to figure out what's going on in your world? You got this problem, you got this problem, you got 17 things going on. I'll think about Jack Watson in dear God in heaven, 76, who said, Winslet, if there are 37 problems, one's alcohol, just focus on the alcohol. And so I say, let's do an experiment. I don't want to see you again for a month. Okay? Okay. See you in 30 days. And look, if you come back here and tell me whatever, I'm going to believe you. Okay? I'm not the internal medicine guy who can say, you had sausage and eggs for breakfast. I can see it right here. Okay? So it's like, for me, it's like somebody's bringing a deck of cards. I say, I assume that all 52 cards are in the deck. We're going to play. If you're keeping cards up your sleeve, I'm not going to know it. I'm going to lose. You're going to lose. So come in and tell me the truth. I'm not God. I'm not judge. I'm not jury. Just tell the truth. People come in and say, I couldn't stop. Okay. So that's one way. Can someone stop? And in 30 days is really not a good test. Really, 3, 4, 5 months is a good test. Okay. So, first off, can someone stop? Which is why, because my dad loved to shine shoes every night, just shine shoes, I stopped. Just so I know at age 65, I can stop. And so I said to our kids, when they were going through adolescence, I said, let me tell you about your family history. You know, you swim in a nasty gene pool. Okay? And here's some things you need to pay attention to. This is one of them. You're on your own. Okay? So, one diagnosis is based on continued use despite consequences. The Yale studies on alcoholism a long, long time ago had a really great study, great theory, great ideas. And what they talked about was, the phrase was trying to raise the bottom up to where the abuser was. Because what we know is that, if I can do it in order, an alcoholic, any addict, is first going to lose family. Is second going to lose is third going to lose money. And then I think really as important, if not more important, then you start losing all the intangibles. Dignity, sense of worth. Okay? And so the studies were designed to try to help us to bring the floor up to where someone is. And so all of this is our trying to communicate to someone that we want to bring the floor up to where you are before you have lost everything. Okay? I'm going to, before we leave, I want to point you to a nice YouTube 5-part series on the neurobiology of addiction. This guy's really brilliant. And one of the things we believe is that alcoholism is a disease. Just like diabetes, and just like coronary heart disease, and just like everything else. And there are people who tell me that they can take somebody who's never consumed alcohol, and the person dies, and they can, do a brain study and say this guy was an alcoholic because of the configuration, okay, because of the way the brain is put together. This person, by their pure definition, would be called an alcoholic, and he never had a drink. Okay, so we very much believe in a disease model, which calls for treatment. But we make a diagnosis based on continued use despite consequence. Development of a tolerance at some early age. One night my dad is not trying to choose, and so I go downstairs and I sneak 2 beers. I get a little buzz. And I do that for a while. I do that for a month or 2 or 3. Guess what?
2 beers isn't going to do it.
Two beers isn't going to do it. I need 3. And then I start realizing he's going to start wondering where his beer went. So I started offering to mow the lawn, So you develop tolerance, okay? And what that means is your body, your pancreas, your body is getting used to this, and it now requires more to produce the same effect. While I'm thinking about it, a cocaine addict will say, I'm always trying to chase the first high, and I never get it. Every cocaine addict will say the first high was absolutely euphoric, glorious. And that's the only one. And every other attempt never matches the first one. Well, so you develop a tolerance. You develop, the drinking leads to risky behavior. There are no orthopedists here, are there? Orthopedists had this great, around April or so, they call it the, hey, hold my beer, watch this season. So somebody, he caught it. He's the only one here that got it. You jump off a mountain into a river, or you do something stupid because you're drunk. Hey, hold my beer, watch this. And you wind up in the ER with 2 broken legs and, whatever. Okay? It leads to risky behavior. Okay? You drive stupid. Your inhibitions are lowered. You make all kinds of bad decisions. So diagnosis is based on continued use despite consequences, development of tolerance, drinking that leads to risky behavior, and development of withdrawal symptoms. Where on Monday morning, you just really don't feel good, and you feel nauseated, and you've got the shakes, and you have a headache, and you just feel like a truck hit you and backed up and hit you again. So how do we assess? Is there a need for detox? And many of our programs in town, some really good programs in town, someone is so overwhelmed and so much into the bottle that when they go into treatment, they cannot begin treatment because they first got to be detoxed. And so it could be, Bruni, it could be 7 days before somebody is through detox and can actually be involved in treatment. The best, if you want to just never use again, go home, get on Netflix, pull up the movie Ray, story of Ray Charles, played by Jamie Foxx. And there's a segment in the movie where he's all kind of drug addicted, and he knows he needs treatment, blah blah blah. But he decides to detox cold turkey. There's about a 3-minute segment in the movie of Jamie Foxx going through detox on his own, and it is grueling. I mean, if that doesn't bring someone to their senses, I don't know. Is there a need for detox? Substance abuse questions, all the things we're talking about, what people do at Lakeview or the Friary or Thousand Oaks or a zillion places, what they do is they ask all the questions that we're asking. They're asking about quantity and chronology, history, okay? They're also looking at what else is going on in their life, what else has turned south, okay? And what is the person's motivation for treatment? I know clinically I'm in trouble in my office when I get this awful gut sensation that I'm working harder than the other person. Okay? And you know it, because I'm feeling kind of ramped up and energized, and I really like it. I love addicts. They're the most charming people on the planet. Okay? And I know when one walks in, it's just you know it. Okay? And I love them, and they're charming. But I'm starting saying things like, man, don't you want to go to treatment? Don't you want to feel better? Don't you want to? And I realize I'm working harder than they are. Okay? Guess what? I lose every time. And you lose every time. So what's the motivation for treatment? There's a theory that if I want to lose weight because I've got a high school reunion coming up, I'm going to lose the weight, but I'm not going to keep the weight off. I'm never going to make permanent change for someone else or for something else. Okay? If I embrace the change, if it's something I want, if it's something I really, really desire, then there's a good chance that I might make it happen and it'd be permanent. Okay? We have a lot of people who get mandated to treatment, court-ordered to treatment. We have a lot of people whose employer says, you have two choices. We have a lot of spouses who say, you have two choices. Okay? Now, there's some questions about this because that's not necessarily a pure motivation to get treatment. Although it does look better than jail, okay, or divorce. So what's the motivation for treatment? What we want, what I need to do is let somebody flounder long enough and hit enough bottom to say, I need to go. And that's hard. It's hard. We're going to talk about this. That's hard for families. It's hard for loved ones. It's hard for kids watching parents. So treatment designed based on accurate, honest assessment. One of the things that we have to pay attention to is how comprehensive does treatment need to be? There's some people I can manage in the office one time per week. Okay? There are some people I can manage in the office one time per week, and they've got to go to AA. Got to go to AA. Don't have a choice. There are 50,000 AA meetings in this town. Okay? Pick one. I don't like groups. Okay, pick one. IOP is intensive outpatient, okay? There are a couple of programs. There's one really good program in town where someone simply cannot be away from work, okay? And that happens, that's a reality. It's a program that meets Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And it meets for like 6, 7, 8 weeks. And the person gets to go to work, then goes to IOP. Stays at AA, is referred back to individual work, and that's a good treatment plan. If the person is at a place in the progression of the disease, that can be managed in that context. We have all kinds of inpatient residential programs. There's a place I use over outside of Jackson, Mississippi, and unfortunately, sadly, happily, I've had people there for 2 years. And they've done well. There's a facility, there's a place up in Atlanta, Georgia, that I used some, and it's been there for 30 years, and it was initially, some of you will love this, it was initially established for anesthesiologists. You know why? Because the anesthesiologists are behind the curtain. And they've got these little vials of medicine all around them. And so they start saying, one for him, one for me. One for him, one for me. And just chart it as it's the patient's. It's a 70-bed facility. At any given time, at least 30 or 40 of the patients are anesthesiologists or CRNAs, certified registered nurse anesthetists.
I've heard that dentists have similar problems as well.
Yeah. So, inpatient programs become safe places. They are wonderful places for education and treatment and support. Again, many times when the veil of alcohol is lifted in a place like this, the staff, psychiatrists, and therapists see depressive disorders and anxiety disorders and ADD, ADHD, all the things we're talking about, okay? And then AA. Fred Buechner, a guy that some of us know about. Buechner is a Presbyterian theologian and writer, and he says, if you want to see what church is supposed to be like, go to an AA meeting. It is the most accepting, non-judgmental, loving place on the planet. I love AA. it is a great place to be. Let's talk about opioids. A lot of people obviously get prescribed opioids because of a legitimate issue. Okay, chronic back pain. The guy who said, "Hold my beer, watch this." Okay, is prescribed Percocets or whatever, and so a lot of people simply cannot get off of the medicine once they get on it. And one of the reasons is because the opioids reduce the perception of pain, reduce the perception of pain. Let me give you another good example. One of the benzos is a medicine called Xanax. Okay, we don't particularly care for Xanax because we kind of think it's alcohol in a pill form, but Xanax works. But the way Xanax works is it works quickly, and it's a PRN drug. And what that means is what? You take it as you need it, okay? And so what some people do is they'll have 0.1 Xanax, nice little dosage, and they take it at 9 o'clock every morning. And they take it at 1 o'clock. And they take it at 6 o'clock. And I say, why do you do that? Well, because the doctor said I can take it 3 times a day. Well, yeah, you also said eat 5 servings of fruit. Well, how do you feel? I feel great. Okay, no. If you wake up in the morning and you get into your day and you start to feel anxious, take a Xanax. Because Xanax is like Tylenol. You don't get up every morning and take a Tylenol. I might have a headache today. So you take the Tylenol, what does it do? Nothing. Because there's nothing for it to do. Well, yeah, kill your liver. It does do that. It does give, yeah. If we could only interview our livers. Yeah. So Xanax is the same way. It reduces the perception of anxiety. And so what I say to people, it absolutely scares the willies out of them. Look, we need to stop doing this. This is crazy. Okay? What do you want me to do? Well, let's just don't take that 9 o'clock a.m. Xanax. You know, see if you can white knuckle it to 1. I can have my 1? Yeah, how about my 6? Yeah, you got 6. Let's just go for a week or 2 and don't take the 9 o'clock. They come back in, they say, man, I feel great. Really? Well, no, I don't want to do that. Yeah. Let's look at the 1 o'clock. You know, anyway, opioids reduce the perception of pain. People start taking them so they won't feel what they're probably not going to feel regardless. Produces drowsiness, euphoria. Not a great topic, but they now have all these great medicines on the market, and you see them on TV. Opioid-induced constipation. That's right. If that doesn't get somebody off oxy, it's nothing. Yeah, we didn't see those commercials a year ago, did we? If we just knew the companies that were putting these things out, wouldn't that be great? So it does produce drowsiness. It does produce euphoria. These medicines are injected. They're snorted. And we're looking at 17,000 deaths or more per year for opioid addictions. Incredibly sad. This number is going to go up. The withdrawal And then we can talk about this with alcohol. Mary?
I've been reading and hearing a lot lately about street opioids being cut with fentanyl. You want to say anything about that? Or,
You don't ever know what you're getting
no,
on the street.
but so many deaths recently because of that.
And we talked about this back in week 1. We should do a pop test for week 2. A lot of suicides are accidental because of what Mary's talking about. Because you buy something on the street from some trusted dealer, that's an oxymoron. And it has whatever cut into it. Okay, sure. Mood disorders. Withdrawal produces mood disorders, nausea, muscle aches, diarrhea, fever, insomnia, and intense cravings. Okay, and when I talk to folks that I've worked with who talk about the cravings coming off of oxys or Lortabs, he describes this he describes this as if we were trying to breathe. And we are craving air. Treatment, again, treatment is based on amount, time, chronology. We have the same kinds of programs. We also say there are some really, really good faith-based programs. There are really some really good faith-based programs that are free. I've used a couple of them, and they really, really do a good job. I'll tell you right now, you'll see down here at the Assembly of God Church, 3 Saturdays out of the month, Teen Challenge is been doing car washes. Well, you don't want your car washed, drop in and give them $10. They're doing a great job. We've sent patients to a teen challenge in Selma, Alabama. It's just lights out. There's a place in Birmingham called The Foundry. It's faith-based, it's free. Sent patients there, do a great job. And they work off of United Way and donations and whatever. Patients do a lot of the work, a lot of the cooking and cleaning, and they kind of have some responsibilities there. Wow. Let's talk about relapse. Technically, relapse means a deterioration in one's health after a temporary improvement. We have relapses all over the place. We have relapses with cancer. We have relapses with cardiovascular disease. So relapse is not a word just for us when we talk about substance use disorders, okay? Relapse is a word that's widely used. The primary triggers for relapse, one is re-exposure to the drug. Now, what that means is birds of a feather flock together, and so someone who is in treatment, someone who comes out of treatment, typically they have to find a whole new group of friends, or they have to become a real introvert, okay? Because most likely the friends are not going to stop using, okay? They're sure not going to support this person not using. And so the re-exposure to the drug is the first trigger for a relapse. The second, and we talked about the cravings, and that can be alcohol, that can be Adderall, that can be tobacco, That can be any that we've talked about. The cravings are incredibly intense. If you've been there, experienced it, you know what I'm talking about. Stress. Stress can be a real issue, because what happens with most people who have a substance use disorder is the way they learn how to manage the normal everyday stress that we all deal with was to use. And they learn it early on. It's a real issue with PTSD. PTSD and substance use, unfortunately, really work together, and that's not a good thing. Stress. Physiological changes to the brain. As you stop using, you've got things happening in the brain that I'm going to tell you about this YouTube segment. And exposure to trauma. Okay. One of the things we know about first responders, back to talking about suicide, first responders just get pounded all the time. Okay, and so they're vulnerable. If they have any predisposition to substance use and substance abuse, they are vulnerable because of what they do. The thing that's important is there is always an emotional relapse before a physical relapse. Relapses, if planned, are unconsciously planned. But there's always an emotional relapse before a physical relapse. And so what we want for the person is, you have to be honest, and when you start to feel this, you need to call your sponsor. You need to get to a meeting. You need to reach out. Because unhindered, the emotional relapse always leads to a physical relapse. And so if I have a patient who relapses on Friday, I'm going to know that something started earlier. And he or she just simply did not manage it. The cravings were intense. And here we go. And after that, intense guilt, shame, remorse, start all over. Some of the ways that we know that someone can be in a period of relapse is denying their vulnerability. All of a sudden they're invincible. I got this under control, I'm doing fine, I'm doing great, I'll call my sponsor on Friday, I got too much to do, I'm doing fine. Excuses. Becoming complacent. Neglecting physical, emotional, spiritual issues, and once again getting involved in high-risk behaviors. If I followed someone around, or if I had a video of someone, I can tell you they're in relapse, just because of what they're saying and what they're doing. Okay? Emotional relapse always follows physical relapse. To enable, means to give power, means ability to someone to help that person continue their destructive, self-destructive behaviors. We're going to talk about cliches the last the 7th week, where we talk about kind of taking care of each other. And the history of cliches is, a cliche is something that used to have great meaning, but it got so used and used and used and used that it becomes meaningless. Okay? Well, codependent is kind of a word I grew up on clinically, but that's the word we still use. Those who enable are referred to as codependent. Now, let me give you the bad news. It is just as addictive to be an enabler as it is to be an alcoholic. Enabling is addictive. Maybe not in the same way in terms of brain stuff and all that. Enabling is addictive. So what are some of the signs that I am an enabler? I ignore unacceptable behavior. Back to the next one, my favorite. I'm working harder than you are to get you well. And I'm always going to lose. Okay? Or I lie, or I cover up for the person. Or I resent the responsibilities that I have to assume because you're not doing what you're supposed to do. How many stories have we heard about a spouse calling work for the other spouse to say so-and-so has a headache? I've got a good friend, dear friend, who has a son at a halfway house in South Florida. And I asked my friend to ask their son if he were here, what would he say to you? I would tell people with great respect, stop putting them in rehab until they're ready. It does no good. Stop paying their bills. Stop giving them a place to live, whether it's your home, an apartment. Stop digging them out of legal situations. Stop making it possible for them to use without consequences. You are only prolonging the inevitable. The addict has to be to the point of surrender. And yes, there is the possibility they will die, but you are not saving them from dying. Addiction is fatal. I would highly suggest that family members find an Al-Anon group. Codependency is just as addictive as the addiction of the one we're trying to save. It will kill the spirit. Yes.
Comment, because last week we just had a phone call from my brother-in-law. And exactly the same thing. His son has been on drugs for probably 20 years, but it's gotten progressive. Now it's cocaine. And he's lost his wife, his 2 kids, and my brother-in-law is constantly bailing him out. But his thing is, he hopes every time that I think he really means it this time. You know, that's what he told us last week. And I mean, it's a hard thing when you have your son and you think that, okay, this is going to help. And it's just, it hurts.
Yeah. I cannot imagine how that hurts. Okay? We're going to take, support all you enablers, support groups, back to where we started. Okay? Let me give you this one thing. If you have a pen, YouTube. Dr. Manuel Montez, M-O-N-T-E-S. Dr. Manuel Montez, The Neurobiology of Addiction. It really is fascinating. the neurobiology of addiction, Dr. Manuel Montez. What I would say, is encourage your brother to get help for himself and his wife, your sister-in-law. I would not, that's it. Stop there. Nothing else. Okay.
I'd love that a copy of what you read about can we get a copy of that?
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. Will you come back next week?
Yeah.
Okay. I got names and things in here. I need to clean it up, or I'll get sued. And I'll start using. So I don't have anything else to do. I'll start shining shoes. Okay. I think it's the hardest thing I do. It is absolutely the hardest thing I do. To say to parents of an adult child, I hate this, okay? Are you prepared for your son to die? Are you prepared for your daughter to die? I hate it, okay? And when a parent says no, that kind of says they're going to continue to enable. And that's okay. I can't say I would do anything different. I've not been down that road. I'm not going to be judgmental. Okay? When they say yes, most of the time, kid gets the message, somehow puts it together, does okay. But again, you got to remember, he may be 29 going on 16. So there's a lot of growing up to do. Okay? It's the second most painful thing I do. Okay? Raising teenagers was wonderful education that you don't get anywhere else. And one of my kids one time brought home a really, really, really bad grade report. Okay. And I stayed up that night shining shoes. And started wondering where I'd failed that child, what I hadn't done, and where I had not been a good father. Okay? And about 3 days later, that kid made a really, really good, mature decision. I forgot what it was. Okay? And I started saying to myself, wow, what a cool kid. So mature, so well adjusted, so blah, blah, blah. And it occurred to me, I was taking responsibility for all the bad stuff. And I was giving the kid all the credit for all the good stuff. That's crazy. So I made a decision that I'm either going to give that kid the good and the bad, or I'm going to take it. It's not going to be, I take the bad stuff and you get the good stuff. I'm not doing that anymore. So I made the decision, it's all yours. And not interest or boundaries. We do that as parents. We do that regardless of the topic. Okay? Until your nephew is ready for treatment, your nephew will not make any positive effects.
I think he decided to do that.
Better. But we learned in high school English that better is a comparison. Better than what?
Yeah.
I'm not going to drink as much as I did last week. That's better. So what does better mean?
The money they have spent on boy is unbelievable.
You can't do it. Can't do it. What this kid would say is, everybody gets one chance in rehab, and if you relapse, you're on your own. You get all the tools, you get all the education, you get all the continuing care, you know how to take care of yourself, you know what to do, you know to get a sponsor, you know to use a sponsor, you get one shot at treatment, no more. And I know folks in town, you know folks in town who've had kids in treatment 5 times, 6 times, spent $250,000. Literally. Helen?
What I wonder about is the medical profession who overprescribe all these painkillers. When I've had surgery, you know, you keep your whole bottle full, and you might take 1 or 2.
I know.
It got dental work. It's just, I had surgery one time, and I had it in the morning. By the evening, I did not need anything else. I asked for Tylenol. Oh no, Tylenol's not charged.
Yeah, you need to take an Oxycontin. That's an issue. That's an issue, okay? The other issue is the addict who goes in for a root canal or goes in for an emergency appendectomy and doesn't say, I'm an addict. All I can take is Tylenol or whatever. So there it goes both ways. I do think that we are seeing physicians that are paying more attention to this, but it is still a huge, huge problem. South Central Florida is considered to be a pill mill. It is just phenomenal. Okay.
Okay, people say you can't help nobody unless you help yourself. People say you can't help nobody until they help themselves. But sometimes you don't know that people want no help for you, want to get help. So like, and they want no help for you, they appreciate it, but and they don't want no help for anybody, and they don't want no help for anybody. You can't force nobody to, you can't force nobody to help you, and they don't want no help.
Right.
So they either got to keep faith in the Lord, find some way to work around the problem that they're going through.
Yeah. My saying, thank you, because you reminded me of something. My saying for me is I can't push rope. Well, okay. You can't push.
He's an Air Force guy.
You can't push rope. I can't. There's some things I can't do, and if someone doesn't want treatment, yeah. John, wait for the.
Thank you. You said one thing earlier. I got 2 questions, 2 statements.
You only have one, John.
All right. I'll have to make it short.
Okay.
Your statement about insight does not produce change
It's not synonymous with change, yeah.
is something that almost nobody believes.
Okay.
Because we try to, in the church, we try to give people insight, help people with develop insight. But just developing the insight itself does not produce the change that's required.
Right. Does not change behavior.
I found that to be a profound statement that you made tonight, sir.
Thank you, sir. Okay, second question. Since you complimented me, take a second question.
They told me that in CPE. The other thing was, you made a statement that cocaine addicts are always chasing the glorious first high. And that to me provided an insight into why people become addicts at all. And that was a great gift. Thank you.
Well,
But tell me about that. What is the first high that people get?
well, thank God I've never experienced it. And, you know,
Right.
if this is helpful, okay, if this is helpful, this is nothing I learned in training, okay? I learned this in the trenches from addicts who were willing to be open and honest and make themselves vulnerable and teach me, okay? And so this is helpful. I'm grateful to God for the addicts who've honored me with being open and honest and transparent and vulnerable, okay? All I can say is that the first high is whatever has been my most euphoric, glorious, sensational moment in my life times 100 is all I can say. I can't even, you know, it's kind of like Karl Barth says, you can say everything you know to say about God and then say that you've said nothing. That God is so much bigger than all of that. It's kind of like that, okay? You just can't do it. They talk about the intense cravings, the euphoria, the absolute at peace. And then there's the, I won't do that again. And if it's here, it never gets there. It is always, and to the point that, and you see it a lot with cocaine addicts, they get so paranoid. And they get so angry because if they realize it ain't gonna happen. Okay. Good questions. Yes, ma'am.
I'm wondering what you think about these methadone clinics. Does it keep the addiction going, or is it helpful?
Well, that's a great question. When Dr. Eisenman started working at the methadone clinic, it used to be out on Pine Forest Road, and I think there were 400 patients in the methadone clinic, and now there are like 2,500, 3,000 in Pensacola. Methadone is the substitute. You also hear Suboxone. They are substitutes that people take on a daily basis. They can only get it 1 week burning, 1 week at a time. Is that right? It's 1 week at a time. You have to keep going back to the clinic. It's a substitute. It takes away the cravings and it stabilizes the person. Okay. Methadone has its problems because this population, I don't mean to put it that way, this population is not real good about being compliant. Okay, is that fair? And so they tend, I guess it's okay, don't tell my wife. She had a brother who was in a methadone clinic. He was a drug user. This was 23 years ago. And he was not compliant. And whatever he was taking, dosage of methadone, he stopped. Ran out of money, whatever he ran out of. And so he was off, got his money, didn't tell the physician at the methadone clinic, started back at this dose, blew his heart out, and died. Okay? And so one of the problems with methadone, it has stabilized a lot of people, okay? Just like Suboxone. But the problem is that this is not a compliant population, and so there's a lot of this. And so I've got a brother-in-law who did this, started back at this dosage, and was dead in 2 or 3 hours. Just had a heart, just blew his heart out. Okay? So if you get off of it, you have to build back up to where you were. Same thing with alcohol. If you're drinking 3 jars a night of vodka, okay, and you stop drinking for 3 months, and you decide, for whatever reason, Friday night I'm going to start drinking again, and so you chug 3 mason jars of vodka, you're going to be in the hospital because your tolerance has gone down. You have to start with a regular glass like the rest of us. Questions? Right here.
Can I yell it out?
The question is about methamphetamines. I understand they're the most dangerous addictive drug that you can get, particularly because of the price. A kid riding down the street on a bicycle with a Coke bottle can be making it on the ride.
They're highly addictive. What the question is?
Experience with it.
Experience with all of it. It's highly addictive. It creates, that's why I chose these two. It creates euphoria. The cravings are intense. It's easily accessible. I had kids say, give me $20 in 20 minutes and I'll bring you back whatever you want. That's all. Okay. So yeah. It's amazing how many things we use for something that was intended for something else. Xanax, Adderall, Ritalin, Oxycontin, alcohol. Yes, back behind.
This is just nothing question, but out of curiosity, why was Euphoria cast alive?
Because I had an epiphany. I don't know.
Different things than Euphoria was cast.
Because I didn't catch it.
Oh, well, it wasn't a trick question to Pastor. I just wondered if it had some.
Oh, yeah, there he is, back up.
Okay, I'll trust you. It's capitalized. Everybody get your pen out and make that a small E. There was. I don't know what it was. That's funny. Oh, that's funny. I don't know. Yes.
I just wanted to mention that just from my experience in addiction, not me personally, but a family member, once an addict, always an addict.
Right here. Yeah.
It never stops. And the only medicine that I know my family member takes now is his meetings. That is his medicine. His friends, his sponsors who are also addicts. And that's what has saved his life. Literally. That's the only medicine that works.
Thank you. Hang on with me. Stay here. I would say if you've never been to an AA meeting, you would be welcome. It's like church. Go to an AA meeting. You will see people there who have been clean and sober for 1 day, for 10 years, for 40 years. And what they never say, I've recovered. They always say, I am recovering. It is a process. They are recovering. And it becomes, it's like for him going to an AA meeting, to miss it is like you not brushing your teeth in the morning. Your whole day is off. It's not right. And they go, some go 7 days a week, some go 3 days a week, and it is absolutely, in terms of the disease, it is salvific. There's no question.
Hey, Weight Watchers is the same way.
Well, so we didn't talk about food addictions. I don't want to go there. Okay. Sugar addictions, carb addictions. Yeah, but there's OA. Okay. Listen, there are 200 people who left work today in Pensacola and drove to Biloxi to gamble because they're addicted. Okay, and that addiction is no less severe than anything we've talked about. And it is, the cravings and the euphoria is just as real as anything we talked about. Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. He goes to NA, by the way. He goes to NA.
NA, well, NA, good, that's fine.
Sean.
Yes.
I just wanted to piggyback on the methadone thing. My experience with what I've seen with methadone is it's a substitute. It's a substitute addiction. You still withdraw from it. You still have to take time to get off of it. If the clinic would get people stabilized on it and then wean them, it would be a useful tool. But I don't see that where I work. I see people that are on it for years and years and years, and they're addicted to that just like they were to heroin or whatever else they were using.
People who are hypercritical say that Suboxone really stands for substitute. So, just like methadone, that they're substitutes, and you have the same problems. And again, you do not have a compliant population. You have a pretty unsteady population. Okay? But that's a problem also for physicians. You know, you ask any physician, there are two complaints. Insurance companies. And you. Patient non-compliance. Guy goes to the doctor, 170 over 120 blood pressure. Doctor says you got hypertension. I'm going to put you on this 20 milligrams of lisinopril. Great, thank you very much. Goes home, starts taking lisinopril. 2 weeks later, it feels like $1 million. He says, man, I'm cured. It happens all the time. Patient non-compliance. It's just a bigger issue with this population.
Don't you think sometimes when you get your prescription from a physician, rather than going somewhere where they're familiar with the treatment, that happens? I've seen that.
Okay, give me an example.
Well, in one of the practices I worked in, we had a couple of patients that the doctor I worked for had put these patients on methadone. Mm-hmm. And they came back year after year after year after year getting methadone. And nobody ever thought or said anything about trying to wean them off of it. And that, sometimes that happens, and that's one of the problems.
And huge. John, third question.
Just one comment that you're going to tell us something more about marijuana when you first started. Okay. We've got 4 minutes. We will. Marijuana. I'm for the legalization of medical marijuana. Okay? We're not trying to get a little 9-year-old girl in Gulf Breeze sitting on her mom's lap smoking a doobie. That's not what we're doing. Okay? We're talking about a kid who's having 12, 13, 15, 18 seizures every day. Okay? And we know that there are certain strands of marijuana. We know there's certain strands of marijuana that are efficacious in the treatment of certain diseases. I have a patient who has leukemia. And she's taking marijuana. She can't tell her doctor. It doesn't have THC. She's not getting high every night. Okay? But we are learning more and more about marijuana as being efficacious. And this is marijuana that does not have a hallucinogen, does not have THC. She tells me stories of going to Denver. The comedian said, Denver is now, it's just a huge market downtown. There is no commercial space available in Denver. The comedian said, have you noticed that every flight out of Denver is a red eye? So, pretty funny. I wish I had thought of that. So she walks into this, whatever the name of the company is, some pretty name, and there's this glass case with all these products, and it says, recreational use. And then there's a glass case, just like that glass case, with the same products arranged the same. Medical use. If you have the card, which is easy to get, $100, see a physician, stand in line one day for an hour. What's your problem? Got headaches? Okay. So you walk in there, cash only. You know why? Credit cards across state lines. It's a federal offense. It's only legal in Colorado. Checks also. Cash only. Okay. Whatever you're buying here, recreational, is 5 times more expensive than what you're buying here, medical. Okay? She knew what she needed because she had consulted with physicians who had really done their research. So she had to buy out of the recreational case. And she used it every morning. She's doing great. Been doing great for years. Okay? I think we're going to see more and more research that demonstrates an effective use for certain medical issues. We know, we know it helps with chronic pain. We know that marijuana is being used in palliative care. But what we get in our heads is probably just what we did at 12, okay? We get these images of little kids smoking joints. It's crazy. Not what we're doing.
See, I don't think that's as big a deal. Because I think most people, and this is just me, I can't wait, it's not working. Anyway, I think a lot of people are concerned that, hey, if we do the medical marijuana thing, that it's just step one to full legalization. I mean, that's not my personal opinion, but I see that as a mainstream type opinion.
I think you're exactly right, but that is, I'm not saying that you agree with that, okay, I hear that. That is the issue, okay. But how about this? How about if we're stepping up legalization of marijuana? Why don't we take the same steps to step down tobacco?
Right, exactly. Alcohol.
And alcohol. Why don't we do that? Because, yeah, I agree.
You have time for one more question?
One more question.
Okay, what about the gateway to other issues with young people taking marijuana today? Do you believe it's a gateway?
Yes and no. I really think the question is a great question. Okay, we've always believed 2 things about marijuana. It's a gateway drug. Okay, and second, that it's a non-motivational drug. Okay, it takes away your motivation. It just kind of, okay, and it does. Okay, but we don't have any studies that say if this guy didn't use marijuana, he wasn't going to start here doing this or here doing this. Are there studies where people use marijuana and went on to other drugs? Yeah. Do we absolutely believe they wouldn't have gone on to other drugs anyway? No. Okay. Marijuana is a huge issue in this community. You probably know that. If you go out to eat twice a month, somebody in the restaurant cooking your food is high. So, this is a tough topic, and I appreciate your energy, and I appreciate your questions, and thank God Dr. Hodges is back next week. And, see you then. Thank you.